Would you believe me if I tell you that this knight is going to checkmate this king here in just 6 moves? And yes, I mean, you cannot checkmate with a knight alone versus a king, you know that. But when there is pawns, especially rook pawns, it changes everything. Let me show you. Start with a check. Now the king obviously is going in this direction, and there was no way for us to actually defend this pawn. And that was the problem that we had in this position. We are losing this pawn. There is no way around it. We are losing this pawn, so how can we actually just checkmate when he has actually 2 pawns? Let me show you. What you're gonna do is that you're gonna create a sort of spider web around the king. Get closer with your king. Go here. And when he takes, you get closer again. And look what happens. Because it's a pawn that is a rook's pawn, it blocks the king that cannot go this way. And now the king, this one, only has these 2 squares to go to. He's totally blocked. He cannot get out. This pawn is blocked. But now, how do we checkmate with the knight? If he pushes the pawn, you do not take the pawn. It's actually a very, very important pawn to keep for the end, to not have a stalemate. Let me show you. What I want you to do is check the king. Not with this arrow, obviously, but you're checking the king. The king only has 1 square. And now, you're going to play king f1. Most of you guys actually are taking here. And this is a big mistake because this is a draw, actually taking this pawn. Because look what happens. It creates, the king that was here was actually controlling this square. Now, the king can escape. And it changes everything. Because now he can push his pawns, so you're going to have to sacrifice your knight against the pawn. So this pawn was actually super important, and you're going to understand why. Now what you do is that you play king f1. Now it's very simple. He has 2 possible moves. Either he pushes this or he pushes this one, because obviously the king cannot go here. There is a knight, right? If he pushes this one, I'm sure you saw it already, is checkmate in 1 move. In one move. That's checkmate already, okay? But he's not gonna, your friend is not gonna play this kind of like silly moves. So he's gonna try to survive. And for this, he's gonna push this pawn. And now you're telling me, chesscape, what do I do? Because if I take it, well, this is a draw after h2. This is a problem. Because next move, I'm not gonna be able to move and it's gonna be a stalemate. And if you go away, now I'm playing this, I'm threatening to actually push, and you have to actually take. And that's the issue, because when you take, there is no way to actually checkmate like this. So what's the answer here? Well, it's very simple. You do not take actually with the king. The trick is to actually take with the knight, with the check. Now the king is going to come here. You know what he's trying to do? He's trying to escape. And we don't let this happen. So what do? We put the knight here. The knight is actually controlling this square. That is very important. It's really like a sort of like spider web around the king. He cannot do anything. He's forced to actually go back and forth. When he goes back, now when you get this position, it's super easy. I want you to move the king. He can only do this. And now, the point why we move this king is to free this square for the knight. Let me show you. The knight, I want you to go in the opposite direction. And this is something that is counterintuitive. Because we may think, what am I going to do actually going in this direction? What's the point? When the king goes back, now you go to f1 and you created a sort of stalemate. I mean, if the pawn wasn't here, it would be a stalemate and a draw, okay? But now there is a big difference, is that you actually force him to push the pawn and now finish him. You deliver a stunning checkmate with the knight.